My name is Chris Vaughn. I'm a published author of Twisted Stories featuring strong female characters and a consultant to multi-passionate women. I am also In Her Company's creator and founder. In Her Company was founded on the belief that great things happen when women gather. We began as a weekly radio show in 2009 that gained over 16,000 listens, featuring diverse women in business, and are now a company and a growing platform for women discussing how they create, build, and live. Our expanded mission is to help women answer the question, what's next, create a plan to get it, and to birth their huge and possible visions. This mini-series is not only timely because of COVID, but perhaps more relevant because of such, and that we're at an unprecedented time in which women are finding themselves at various points of transition, and the level of uncomfortableness that increases with each, causing them to question themselves and what they knew of the world around them. Through the following discussions, I hope you see that you are not alone, that you can weather transition, and that you glean insight to help you land on the other side of this better and more assured, no matter what it feels like now. So I look forward to your thoughts and your comments. Now on with today's discussion. Joining me today is architect turned entrepreneur Lori Sheik, the founder and CEO of Sheik, a mobile dating app that makes missed connections obsolete. Called the digital dating disruptor, Lori is a Shark Tank veteran and was recently listed as one of the top 10 CEOs to watch. A University of Kentucky architectural graduate, Lori is no longer building structures. She's now building relationships. Lori, welcome to In Her Company.
Thank you for having me.
So, what was life like for you 10 years ago?
Well, just about 10 years ago on the dot, I had launched my new dating business. So after 16 years of practicing architecture and design, I'd come up with this idea I couldn't stop thinking about. And in May of 2010, I launched this new version of online dating that was meant to bring online dating back to the streets. So my life was kind of turned inside out from that day forward.
Wow. That is quite a departure from architecture to mobile dating.
It definitely was. And it's been the journey of my lifetime for sure.
So you chanced upon this, you came about this idea somehow, but before that, were you looking for a new idea, or had you begun sensing that there were some things that were changing?
Yeah, I had always wanted to start my own business, and I think I was very creative in coming up with new ideas my entire life. But none of them were so strong, or I didn't feel passionately enough about one of these ideas to actually bring it to life. But this one, I came up with the idea, I guess it was almost 13 years ago, and I couldn't stop thinking about the idea. And I remember walking around New York City telling everybody about it. A lot of people were like, this is such a great idea. You probably shouldn't be talking about it. I kept talking about it. And yeah, enough people had said it's such a great idea. I thought I really got to make this happen. So I found some people to help me bring it to business.
I found people. That's such a simple statement. There's of course more that goes into that, but yeah, it's always amazing when we find like-minded individuals or people to travel along a part of our journeys with us. People do the right thing typically. You go to school, after you graduate, then you go to college or not. But architecture is one of those fields that it takes longer to go through not only the curriculum, but then you have a period of internship or apprenticeship after that. So you were well vested and interested, obviously, into architecture. So what was it that was strong enough to pull you away from that? Like, were you experiencing some dissatisfaction in the field, or because, ideas can be compelling, but there's a difference between someone who attends college for, say, 4 years and say, that wasn't for me, and someone who's in a demanding career such as yours and decides that this is worth that.
I mean, I could probably talk about the subject for an entire hour, which I know we don't have to talk about this one particular thing, but, I had some really amazing jobs, even in the field of architecture. One of my favorite jobs was at Christian Dior. I did store planning and design. I got flown to Paris. I got to go all over the United States and help opening up the new Christian Dior boutiques. I had a wardrobe that must have been worth $100,000 because we got great discounts. And it was pretty cool. And John Galliano was the designer then. But as cool as that job was, there was something about this time I was investing in the corporate world. So I was getting paid to be in this office 45, 50 hours a week to help build someone else's dream. Meanwhile, my core really wanted to work that many hours or longer. I didn't care to build my own dream. So for 16 years, I was doing this 9-to-5 stuff. And I remember, as much as I liked some of these jobs, I never found my absolute happiness. And I would show up to work at 9:15 every day. I'd have my bags ready to walk out the door 1 minute before the end of the workday.
Wow.
So I just wasn't invested. But then when I came up with my own idea, I work all the time. The weekends, I don't care. My life has become my lifestyle. My work is my joy. And there was something about feeling this strongly about an idea that I could actually, live the American dream and build my own invention. That's exactly what I did.
Wow. So the golden carrot wasn't as golden enough to hold you.
No. And, I never ended up, I thought I was going to be a bazillionaire by building this dating empire, which clearly hasn't happened. But, I thought,
yes,
I trusted myself. And it didn't take off quite the way that I had dreamt, but still, it's been more about the journey for me than anything. And I don't regret any of it.
Exactly. It's something that comes up often with the women that we work with in her company is like, they have a job and, they're working, as you mentioned, 50 hours a week, anything over 40. And they're giving their all to that. And it's like, okay, I have this idea, but this is what pays the bills. And I'm like, if you can work 40 hours a week for someone else, you owe it to yourself to at least work for yourself, something to build what you are dreaming about, to give yourself a chance. And things can happen in small increments, but they find themselves, once they do that, they start working more, because then it's not work anymore. Then it's about you building your legacy, or you building something to stand the test of time. So, work and play can be synonymous. Just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess if you'd asked me 15 years ago if I could have ever imagined myself being on CNN or national television or things all over the world, I would have told you were crazy. I mean, I've been flown to Belfast to be the keynote speaker at a tech conference. But if you told me that when I was walking into the office of Christian Dior, I would have told you you're crazy. So I don't know. Yeah. It's funny how life changes when you just take the leap. And that's exactly what I did.
And grow wings on the way down.
Exactly.
So was there, and is one particular incident, or was there something that just triggered you to say, you know what, I'm walking away? Because you had the idea, you mentioned that, but was there something that said, forget this, I'm going all in?
Well, I remember when I had walked around in circles talking about this idea for well over a year, enough people, like I mentioned, had said it's a great idea. I had people emailing me weeks later that said, I needed this product of yours that you keep talking about because I saw some cute person in the subway and they got away. So the idea of my business back then, which was the first iteration of my business, were these dating cards. So they had a cute pickup line on them, and you'd see somebody in person and slip them this cute sort of dating card, and they would type in the code from the card and find your profile online. So it was a little bit like slipping an I like you note, but it didn't have any personal information on it. So it was a fun, flirty, privacy protected way to tell someone you wanted to see them again. So one night I was out to a Mardi Gras party, and there were a couple of guys I was telling this idea to, and they're like, well, we actually help startups get started. We're both MBA. So with the business background, the background that I was actually missing to start this business. And they said, why don't we sit down next week and talk about how we can help you bring this to life? And I'm like, this was the missing link of what I needed to get this thing off the ground. I mean, I'd started writing a business plan. Still, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I just thought you like put a website up on the internet and then you can become a billionaire.
They will come.
Yeah. Well, sorta. You got to market the crap out of everything. But anyway, so that's sort of how it started. And I guess having these two guys to sort of help me build the fire was really crucial in the day that we moved things forward.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you had plenty of support, but what about the resistance? Because change brings about friction often. It also often brings about resistance in some form or another. So it doesn't, from what you've shared with us, it doesn't seem that there was too much resistance because you had your mind made up. But what about that externally? Because there's resistance inside when we're making a life-changing decision, regardless if we realize that's what we're doing in a moment or not. But there are also how other people perceive that or what our change means to them. So can you speak a little bit about the resistance?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually kept my full-time job while I was trying to build this business, and I couldn't do either of them 100%. So there was one day where I was like, I think I've just got to go all in on this business idea of mine and quit my corporate career. So that was sort of a difficult decision. I mean, my parents helped support me through college, and I'd gone to college for 6 years to get this degree. I'd invested so much time and getting where I was, making six figures a year in New York City, and just sort of to say goodbye to that was a pretty drastic decision. And I even remember my mom sometimes early on saying, how's your little company doing? And I'm like, this is not like, it was a cute little project of mine. And I'd be like, Mom, this is not like a hobby. This is going to be my new life. Like, you've got to get on board with me here. And even out of the gate, I've made a lot of mistakes because I didn't know what I was doing, even with those business guys helping me out. But I wasted a lot of money on a lot of things, not knowing what I was doing. And one of my best friends had even said to me, so when do you decide when to pull the plug on this thing? I mean, this was in the first 6 months of me starting this business. And I'm like, you guys don't know who you're talking to, apparently. I mean, my mother and my best friend. Like, have you ever seen me do anything halfway in life? This is not a joke. I am moving forward, quitting my career, and here we go. So join me or don't. Anyway, they stuck with me.
They stuck with you, and they're still with you today, of course.
Yeah.
That is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. There's a lot to be said about stepping out. Because the visions and the dreams that you have, they're yours. They belong to you. And it is the process of pursuing them oftentimes, because all of us don't begin with a team, but is by virtue of us pursuing those dreams and that direction that doors open, that people join you, but you have to step out first. And great things happen after that. You can't wait till you have everything in place, as you mentioned, because even if you did, there's still mistakes to be made, but those are learning opportunities also.
Yeah, exactly. And after this long and the amount of mistakes I made, I feel like I personally gave myself a 10-year degree in business because now I know what I'm doing. And it was a little late to learn those lessons. But yeah, I mean, mistakes and failure are sometimes a blessing in a really shocking way.
Yes, quite shocking. I'm speaking from experience, quite shocking, but this is not about me. So, of course, there were many ups and downs, many challenges, and in the information that you were kind enough to share with me that others aren't privy to, you had actually every single, not only opportunity, but every single reason. And I mean, valid reason, not excuses, but valid reasons to quit, to not pursue this. And I'm sure, as excellent as your business experience was, that it would have been quite easy for you to just jump back into architecture or with Christian Dior or any other organization, and you would have been quite an asset to them. What kept you going and actually pursuing this, though?
I mean, when we talk about taking that leap, like I literally jumped off of a cliff and took the biggest risk I've ever taken in my life. And there was just no going back for me. Like I said, I don't do anything halfway in life. I wasn't going to pull the plug on 16 years in my career to sort of tiptoe into this. And I did make a lot of mistakes. I failed in so many different ways. I mean, if you had a checklist of everything an entrepreneur could go through, every struggle, every obstacle, every hurdle, I could check them all off. And I probably invented some new ones that could be added to the list. So,
can you share what some of those were for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the three biggest was early on, I made a huge tech mistake where we had a recurring subscription model with those cards. So you had to pay $9.95 a month to keep your cards activated. And our developer back then was in London, and you capture a credit card to make it a recurring subscription. So he had that button ticked off that didn't capture everyone's cards. So we got covered in the New York Times on the cover of the style section, and it said, "Move over, Match.com. This is the next generation of online dating." Our orders blew up that day, and people from all over the world were like, "How do we get these cards?" We weren't even set up in other countries yet. Anyway, we sold all these orders, and we didn't capture the credit cards. So when 1 month happened, yeah, we lost everybody's credit card information. So I emailed them one by one, all these people, and was basically like, "We lost your credit card information. Can you give it back to us?" So I think 3 people wrote me back and gave me their credit card information.
Wow.
So yeah, we lost, I think it was like a $30,000 mistake. So based on our average monthly user, it would have been $30,000 that we would have gotten from all those people, and we lost their credit card numbers. So that was one of the bigger mistakes I've ever made. I just kept hiring the wrong web developers and spending tons of money, and I don't think they knew what they were doing necessarily. So then I'd go hire another one, and that developer would be like, "Oh, well, this thing is so messed up right now. You should start from scratch and rebuild an entirely new website instead of fixing this one."
Of course, of course.
So I don't know. I think it was like a $20,000 mistake each time you got somebody else on your website. So $60,000 in, I was like, okay, now we're going to start completely over. So I don't know. I mean, basically that's like $100,000 mistake between those two things.
Yeah.
I ran out of money. I was using my own savings account to build this business. I'm close to homeless. I moved out of my apartment and started renting a room on Airbnb to try to help pay my bills and fund my business. And I lived on people's couches for 14 months while I rented out my West Village studio in in New York City. Then finally, I decided to take the show on national television and went on ABC Shark Tank. And that was one of the scariest moments of my entire life. And I didn't care if I failed or what on that show. I just wanted the opportunity to tell the world about what I was doing. And I thought if the sharks didn't get it, the audience might. It was like
Awesome.
8 million viewers watched that show on a typical Friday night. So after walking down that scary shark infested hallway, those sharks all told me to quit what I was doing and go back and get my job in architecture. So that just fueled me even more to keep going. I wanted to prove them wrong. And even when I walked off the stage of that show, I remember looking them all in the eye and I said, trust you will all see me again. Even though they'd all told me to quit, I wasn't going anywhere.
So no became a challenge.
Yes, exactly. And then I sat down with a newer business partner afterwards, and we started reinventing the business into what we have today, which is a Bluetooth dating app. So we got rid of those cards, and now we have a mobile dating app that's struggling now because a couple of years after my Shark Tank episode, a viewer of a rerun of my episode has been suing me for almost 4 years. He's claiming I stole his idea, those cards that failed.
Wow.
Yeah, so this lawsuit is still ongoing. It's been almost 4 years and has cost nearly $120,000 to fight, which we pretty much won the lawsuit. It's almost over, but we're still paying to finalize it all. I mean, I can't lose. I didn't steal the man's idea. So there's that. And justice will prevail. So still, I don't know. I think many people would have quit from mistake number one. But yeah, here I am through this 10 years of hurdles. And I think I could be the poster child for the age-old phrase, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And here I am, strong as an ox to this day.
Yes. And well positioned to reap the rewards of your work as well. You know, one of the reasons we asked that question is because I think we have this idea that change means just a switch to something else. Or we see transition as simply, well, I'm not doing this anymore, so I'm going to transition to doing this. And what you said was a perfect example. It's like sometimes transition moves you to the next step, not the whole thing. And then sometimes transition is a series. You know, it just depends on what your path looks like. And it's good for our listeners and our viewers to be able to hear that transition is just that. You know, you don't necessarily get to choose how it comes about, but be prepared because it can be all at once or it can be gradual over time, such as what you're experiencing. But I think the great thing is that you're still there.
I'm still here and I'm still bulldozing forward as much as I can. But it's been a serious financial hit, all of this. You know, it's like I'm out of money, but I will figure this out. And I've even got new ideas that I want to bring to life. So I don't know. I know what I'm doing this time around.
Yeah. Starting from experience, not from scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah. In light of everything, how do you feel about where you are now?
Well, some of this financial destruction in my life has made me relocate to my home state in Kentucky. So I was living in New York City for 25 years. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I came down to Kentucky where my family is. So talk about transition. I've pulled the plug on a lot of things in my life. I'm sort of starting from scratch socially here in a new state. And it's been extremely difficult to meet people and live a normal life in the middle of COVID. So there's that. But my life is transitioning on so many levels and I'm just trying to find opportunity in a new place. And I'm actually finding a lot of inspiration being in a place where I don't know many people and trying to make connections in the middle of a time when we're supposed to be distanced from people. It's very difficult. So it's actually inspired one of the new ideas that I like to bring to life right now.
Awesome. Is it too early to share what that idea is?
Well, a little bit of it is, there's so many dating apps out there and they're all sort of these type of dating apps where you're swiping from your couch and you often don't even ever end up physically meeting the person. But I want to make something more organic. So there's like a more real experience. So there will be a video component to that. And
Awesome.
I think it's like going to be a video required thing. So you don't have the chance to hide behind a screen. You see what that person really looks like. So whatever those false pictures might be on an app, this is all video. And I want to make it for business networking, for hobbies, for cyclists, for people that want to work out together. So just sort of a major realm of making connections in a time when it's very difficult to meet new people. So that's sort of the gist of it all.
And that's well needed. It is very much needed, nowadays, because there are some things that will go back to normal after this is over, whenever that is. But I do honestly believe that there are a lot of things that will not. I think there are a lot of things that are forever changed, and that we found that some of the things that we were doing or in the habit of doing, we found better ways to do them now. So it's going to be.
I agree with you. A lot of things aren't going to go back to the way they were. So I do feel like this idea of mine could actually be very, very helpful to a lot of people. I mean, like remote work. I don't know how many businesses are actually going to want to go back and pay for real estate. So there's all of this working from home thing that's going to last forever for a lot of people. So, I mean, it gets lonely. So I'm going to try to remove this loneliness factor from this remote world that we're living in right now.
Awesome. What do you wish that you would have known then before you got into any of this? I know it's like whole lists are the top 10, right?
Yeah. I mean, some people even ask me if I would go back on the Shark Tank knowing what was getting ready to destroy the next 4 years of my life. But, I'm always looking for the silver lining and stuff. So, yeah, I think I would have still gone on that show. And maybe some of those earlier mistakes I probably wouldn't have wanted to make, all the money mistakes. But really, the main thing I should have done in the beginning was not have those two business people, because I gave them both equity. They were like clones of each other. They both had the same skill sets. I needed a tech founder, a technology-based founder. Then I would have saved myself out of the gate and not had to build 3 different websites with 3 different companies. Wouldn't have made that first tech mistake probably. So could have saved me $100,000 out of the gate. That is what I wish I'd known back then. If you're going to build a tech company, it's nice to have someone that knows a little bit about technology.
Yes, quite true, quite true. So any final words of wisdom for women who are currently facing their own change or transition?
I just think you got one shot in life, and you better find a way to make it as happy as possible. If you believe in your idea, say give up doubts and surround yourself by the right people, supportive people, smart people, people that you admire and people you want to grow to be, and bulldoze forward and don't look back, because it could be the journey of a lifetime. And I could be the spokesperson of that statement.
Speaking of spokesperson, what is next on the agenda for you? And please tell our listeners how that they can reach you.
Well, my heart's really into this idea I was sort of telling you about taking the loneliness out of the remote period of our lives. So I'll be hopefully trying to find a technology person. I feel like at this point, I'm not going to learn how to code or build apps. So I'm going to depend on someone else to help me do that. So that's my goal for now. So if we talk again in a year, hopefully I will have launched a new product by then. And you can find me pretty much on any social media platform under Cheeked, which is CHEEK with a D on the end. D as in David. So that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Lori, thank you. Thank you so much for
having me
today, sharing your insight. And I hope you also have enjoyed today's conversation, gained insight to help you better navigate the transitions of your life. I invite you to listen to and to share your feedback on the other segments in this series, and to become part of this growing platform that we are building for women. So follow us on social media and visit our website, InHerCo, just CO, obsolete.net to join our list and to become aware of some of these opportunities. Once again, my name is Chris Bond. This is In Her Company.